Kaip mes paverčiam idėją žaidimu? Pradėkim. Sukuriam konceptą, mastom, aptariam, nesutariam, atsipalaiduojam ir vėl galvojam, pasiekiam bendrą sprendimą. Kas toliau? Kuriam prototipą, eksperimentuojam, testuojam, sugriaunam, pradedam iš naujo, pažiūrime viską iš kito kampo. O kas po to? Darbas nesustoja. Gerinam dizainą, optimizuojam kodą, ieškom, tyriam, sekam procesą, sutvarkom likusias klaidas. Pailsim. Ar tai viskas? Paleidžiam produktą, reaguojam į žaidėjus, pritaikom kritiką. Taip mes sukuriam gerą žaidimą. Atšvenčiam, pasiemam atostogų, įsikvepiam ir sukuriam naują konceptą. Siekim tobulumo kartu, kurkim žaidimus, kurie augina, įkvepia ir ugdo. Tuto Tunes. Kaip mes paverčiam idėją žaidimu?
As we cross over the 10th anniversary of our presence here in Lithuania and reflect on what that last decade has brought, it's absolutely incredible. The Windows editor was developed here, and the mobile runtime and the mobile support for Unity was done here.
Aras, I think one of the first employees of Unity, he joined Unity and he was working, and I think he decided to go back home.
And then we moved back. I moved back to Kaunas, and someone else moved back to Vilnius, and that's why we have two offices. The very first office that we got in Kaunas, that was only for 2 people. Very first people were very, I would say, self-motivated and didn't need much guidance or much sort of hand-holding.
We have access to a lot of great talent here in Lithuania, a lot of motivation, I would say.
That's amazing about the people in Lithuania is how they're able to see a really hard problem, not be scared of it. They have the courage to actually tackle that.
They're working in architectural changes of Unity and preparing Unity for the next 10 years. So they play a very key role here.
You've got to be mission and vision driven. And at Unity, we believe the world's a better place with more creators in it.
Kaip mes paverčiam idėją žaidimu? Pradėkim. Sukuriam konceptą, mastom, aptariam, nesutariam, atsipalaiduojam ir vėl galvojam, pasiekiam bendrą sprendimą. Kas toliau? Kuriam prototipą, eksperimentuojam, testuojam, sugriaunam, pradedam iš naujo, pažiūrime viską iš kito kampo. O kas po to? Darbas nesustoja. Gerinam dizainą, optimizuojam kodą, ieškom, tyriam, sekam procesą, sutvarkom likusias klaidas, pailsim. Ar tai viskas? Paleidžiam produktą, reaguojam į žaidėjus, pritaikom kritiką. Taip mes sukuriam gerą žaidimą, atšvenčiam, pasiemam atostogų, įsikvepiam ir sukuriam naują konceptą. Siekim tobulumo kartu, kurkim žaidimus, kurie augina, įkvepia ir ugdo. Tuto Tunes.
Okay, hello everybody. I really hope your jamming is going great. Well, and if it's not, sorry to hear that, and hopefully some of the tips you'll hear will help you with that. So, yeah, really quick introduction. Hi, I'm Petras. I currently work in Unity. I started my journey in game jams in 2014 in Kaunas. Have been to almost all of them. Unfortunately, had to skip past couple ones, but yeah, I'm quite familiar with jamming myself. I have released a couple of games on Windows Phone when it still existed. I've co-founded a small, now closed studio, Rusty Oak. We released a virtual reality game, Hurl VR. we started working on another title. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition. And finally, a year and a half ago, I joined Unity's mobile's runtime team. So yeah, prototyping, especially during game jam. I'll be upfront. Regular prototyping and doing a game jam game is a bit different. While prototyping, you are just basically scouting some ideas. In game jam, you don't have the time to scout some ideas. You have to commit to something and go with it. So I'll be focusing more of game jam tips. But yeah, there is 3 main prototyping pillars. First one is scoping and vision. Second one, probably the most important one, is being lazy. And the third one is using the right tools. So as you can see, 2/3 is actually getting into right mindset, and only 1/3 is technical stuff. So let's start with scoping and vision. Yeah, so first of all, when you come to game jam, you should be truthful with yourself and decide what is your own personal goal. You don't have to be a programmer if you know coding in game jam. You don't have to be an artist if you know 3D modeling in game jam. Maybe your goal is to actually learn something new. In that case, don't be shy, even though it's limited time and you might not finish everything that you intend to. But if your goal is personal development, just go with it. If you want to quickly make a best game you can possibly do, maybe your personal goal should align with that, and you should work with what you have and what you're best at. Next up, know your team, because a lot of times, and this is a default with myself in past game jams, we had a team of 2 or 3 people. 2 of them were programmers, 1 was audio designer, and we wanted to make a game that looked really great. So we spent a lot of time trying to do art, and as you could probably imagine, it did look pretty poorly. So we should have probably worked on something that's code heavy or even music heavy. We did not, and the result was less than desirable. So yeah, knowing your team, knowing your strengths and weaknesses can help really greatly when designing and making a game. And yeah, I would say one of the most important tips would be understand that you're actually making a prototype. You're not making a game that you'll release and sell. So you shouldn't expect to make this highly polished, highly functional game. No, it's perfectly fine to have cubes for your characters, not have any menus, not have any sound, because it's a prototype. This is the first stepping stone to test out what you're making, and then you can build from that. But in these 3 days in game jam, or if you're making a prototype, focus on the right things and don't get discouraged if it doesn't look like in your imagination. Yeah, and especially for a game jam, know what you want to demonstrate, because in the end, after 48 hours, you'll have what you'll have, and you want to make one part shine really bright, and you want that part to be the main part of the game, the main game loop, maybe main mechanic. You don't need to make a full game, you just need to make main game feature. And yeah, because this is a very constricted event based on time, like you only have 48 hours, move quick. Don't think about tidiness, don't think about cleanness. Just plan that after this event, you'll have to redo everything again if you want to actually make a game out of it. So even though this might sound a bit concerning, be aware that if you have the mindset that you'll just throw everything out and rebuild it better later, you can move super quick, because in that case you won't care about like how your scene heresy is set up, if your code is clean enough, if your code is optimized enough, and it will let you focus on getting that minimal viable product as quick as possible, and then worry about the cleanness, about making it proper after the event, when you have time for it. Yeah, and this one is a bit more difficult. Maintain the game awesome, which means that in every step, in every iteration when you're making it, the game should be kind of fun. It should be already playable, and by adding stuff, you just make it more awesome and awesome and awesome. But I do believe that in every step, it should be at least playable. So for example, if you're trying to make a new GTA, you could try to think of like the components of what is important, what will be fun, and what will be fun immediately. So if I was making a GTA, I would probably do cars first, because I don't need any enemies, I don't need any missions. Just driving around, even empty level, could be fun. Then I could add character movement, and so my character could go pick between the cars and so on, and then I can add enemies and shooting. So in every step of iterations, like you have this kind of not a full game, but a game that is functioning and is fun on its own. Next big pillar, I would say, is being lazy. But it might sound confusing, because not doing anything is also considered being lazy, but that's not what it's about. Being lazy in game jam sense and prototyping sense means trying to use minimum effort possible, because you'll have to do a lot of things. You'll have to implement walking, jumping, enemies, AI, music, visual effects. You have to be quick with that, so you have to use a lot of hacks, you have to use a lot of shortcuts in order to get something working and something that you can come back later to do some polish. So for example, I really love, it's not even a game in a prototype stage, it's a production game called Rocket League, which is super popular, and not sure if you have noticed, but all the spectators in the tribunes are actually sprites, like small images of small differently colored circles, and they just bounce around like in random intervals. And I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't noticed it, because it's something that's very far in the background. It is not like main thing of the game. It's pretty obscured, and it doesn't require a lot of effort, yet still it doesn't fall out of the context and you don't even notice it. And to add to it, next step would be just strive for good enough. You have limited time. 48 hours is not a lot, so you don't need to have a finishing polish. You don't have to make it like a full game, full experience. You don't have like it for all the parts to work properly. You just have to make it good enough, because at any later time you'll be able to come back to it, add some more polish, add some other features, but for now, good enough is good enough. And yeah, to be extra lazy, you can just not do any work at all. There is a lot of code, a lot of models, a lot of assets that are already produced and waiting for you to use them. So if you have this really great idea and you have like this super awesome game loop, it won't matter for now if the game loop, if the game is created with assets from other people, because your idea, it's your game loop, and that's what matters for you, and that's what matters in your game. So the assets don't matter. You can change them, and it's super good to like quickly get your idea out there and into people's hands. And to get a lot of assets, free assets. With Unity, you can go to Unity's asset store. There are a lot of great free assets that you can use. You can just quickly put in your game and start playing around with them. There are some paid assets that's also great. So you can just go into the store, look what you need and what you don't want to be doing yourself, and just use the assets, the tools that somebody else had made. Yeah, and another great place to start, it's probably one step further even, like use templates, use like prepared kits. For example, if you want to make a new GTA, you would probably need to take care of a lot of stuff like third-person cameras, some like vehicle physics and handling and so on. Good news, there are like bare bones projects already there that has most of this stuff set up, so you can just download it, import it into your project, and you immediately will have a character that is running around, and you can focus on the fun stuff and the stuff that you want to actually make, and don't need to like do all the manual stuff that like people have made thousands of times already and that don't add like value or fun to your own game. Yeah, and there's a lot of places to get those free assets. Yeah, so the big one is Unity Asset Store, which is great if you're using Unity Engine. There are a lot of other free places, and like probably one of the most popular and freely available are OpenGameArt. It has a lot of art, assets, like music, all of it's free. There's this guy Kenny who makes like this very great quality, super cute assets for like 2D games and 3D games. You should definitely check his website out. And like for animations, because animating is hard, trust me, you can go to Mixamo, which has like huge library of animations that you can freely download and use those animations in Unity or other engines. Yeah, and I added this because it's the lazy section. It doesn't really follow the theme of other tips, but get some sleep. I know from my personal experience that like while in Jam, you have this idea, you want to make it quickly, you want to be able to make it in 48 hours, and you see that things are going a bit too slow, and then you decide, okay, I can probably skip sleep for this weekend because I'm trying to make something great. And yeah, by skipping sleep, I'll get like a couple extra more hours of productivity. Well, what I found out later is that 1 hour of rested work is way better and more productive than several hours where you're trying to keep your eyes open and try not to black out. So yeah, be lazy, get some sleep. You'll see in the morning the jamming will go a lot greater than it was at night. Yeah, and the last one, the last pillar would be using the right tools, because not even like using them, but knowing the tools that you could apply to the current situation that you're in. Because you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know all the engines, all the modeling tools, all the animation tools. You just have to know that they exist. And if you encounter a problem, there's probably going to be a great tool that will help you tackle the problem like super fast. So one of these tools, like very versatile, super great for game making and prototyping is, well, Unity. I think a lot of people here in Lithuania are familiar with it. A lot of games I know are being made in current game jam with Unity. And Unity, even though it itself is a tool, it has a lot of other great tools inside of it, which help with a lot of different things and help you make your games and prototypes super fast. So I'll be doing like a quick overview of what tools you could use, and hopefully maybe you have some kind of a problem and you'll see some tool that will be right for you. First one, it's a big one, it's a new one, visual scripting. I know that a lot of people come to game jams to learn coding, learn making games, and unfortunately programming is pretty daunting at first. You have to know a lot of stuff by heart. You have to know all the variables, methods. Sometimes you have so much options that it's sometimes not even feasible to remember everything. And especially if you're starting out, you can just be paralyzed by all the choices and all the things that you can do. And while programming is great, that kind of situation is not. And visual scripting helps out a lot with this, because the best part about it, it's not that you can visually see all the nodes, how all the logic is connected in a two-dimensional space. No, it's the fact that you can see all the actions, all the building blocks that you can make and use. And as a person who's starting out with Unity, it's great to start building this library of actions you can do in your mind by firstly using visual scripting. And to be honest, visual scripting is pretty advanced now that you can even just skip coding altogether and stick to visual scripting to make great games and great quality games. So yeah, if you came to Game Jam wanting to learn Unity, wanting to learn game development, and you're kind of afraid of coding, visual scripting is a super great place to begin creating game logic. Next up, when you're making, in this case, a 3D game, it's sometimes hard to get the models, the environments quite right quickly. If you're working in an external program, for example, Blender, you might do some kind of environment model, import it into Unity, and because of some settings mismatch, it might not look right for you. Fortunately, Unity has a great built-in tool for that. It's called Pro Builder. I'll quickly show a demo here. Yeah, as you can see, you can just draw environments inside of Unity super quickly, super fast. You have a lot of different options. You can add stairs, custom shapes, primitive shapes, and you can just make a quick demo level for testing purposes, for gameplay testing purposes, just straight in Unity. You don't need to use any other programs. It's just there, it's super fast, and it's super great for prototyping. And as you can see, in no time, we already have this mountain environment with texturing, with colors, and while it doesn't look like production ready, in a couple of minutes we can have a great asset for prototyping straight in Unity. Next tool is Polybrush. Sorry for technical difficulty. Okay, doesn't matter. Yeah, so if you need to quickly make some assets that are more advanced than just environment and need some more polygons and stuff, you can use Polybrush to also quickly make something in Unity, so you don't have to jump between different programs, and you can use these assets, these 3D models, immediately in Unity itself. If you're working on a 2D game, I really love the way the sprite shape workflow looks. So yeah, if you're making some 2D levels, you can just put in some sprites, put in some settings, and you can easily create very advanced, very high fidelity environments, real time, straight in editor. And yeah, it has a lot of great features. As you can see, it has manipulation of the sprites itself, curving and so on. So yeah, it's just a great tool to quickly get some cool looking 2D environments with ease. Well, another one is probably more familiar to everybody is style maps. Long are gone the times in Unity where you had to draw each sprite into the scene and try to align it with the position handles. Now it's super easy. If you're making a game that's based on tiles, it's super easy to just load in your tile sheet and just quickly make a map with the tiles. And yeah, for 2D one, I was really excited to see this one because this one was new for me as well, is sprite rigging. Like if you have a 2D character, which is drawn in parts, you can just quickly assemble it in Unity and put some bones in the character and quickly use it like in all the animation tools that Unity provides to create like high fidelity, super cool looking animated characters. And for more advanced tools, if you're making like advanced sequences, for example, like a cutscene or some kind of a timed event, or like even a simple thing as enemy dying. Like let's take enemy dying. It must have sound because, well, who doesn't like a good death scream? It will probably play some kind of animation for the player. It will probably also add some score to the player. So these are all different kind of things that happen over and over in some kind of sequence or some kind of cycle. And while you can do it all in script, you can have all the timings and so on, you could just quickly in Unity drag all these objects in a timeline, set up how how it works, what goes after what, and quickly have like a working, reusable like sequence of thing that is happening in your game. And it's super easy to reuse, it's super easy to produce, and it highly like elevates the speed of the game making, especially when you're prototyping. And also, not so new, but super great feature of Unity to make your games look super great and have these cool camera transitions and interesting camera behaviors is Cinemachine. And yeah, in this example you can just see how using timeline and a couple of Cinemachines things you can make these cool transitions without any code, without writing any logic. It's just you input some parameters, put some game objects, and you can have very good looking camera system even in your prototype. Okay. And yeah, not a regular tool, but I think forums are super great tool to use when trying to make something, when trying to prototype, because usually, especially if you're trying to make a game really quick, you run out into some problems, you run into some weird errors, and you're probably not the only one, and probably somebody had already experienced the same problem. So just quickly jumping on a forum, searching out the error that you got, or even the situation that you're in. You can find other people that already got help, or you can just post in the forums to ask for help and just quickly like overcome the issues that you're having. So yeah, forums is a great place to quickly troubleshoot, and it has helped me a lot in past game jams. So yeah, highly suggest just going there if you have any problems. And some general tips that didn't make it into any of these categories and are quite specific is, first of all, avoid procedural generation if possible. Like even if you're making an endless runner game which has a new random level each time you start the game, it's a great feature, and procedural generation is super fun. But when you're making a prototype, when you're making a proof of concept, maybe you should want to be able to present all of the great features that your game has, and making the level by hand, an example including all of the building blocks, all the interesting sequences that could be generated, would be of most value, because you will know what to expect when presenting. You will show the greatest side of like the game loop. So procedural generation can be an hassle sometimes, and you can avoid it by just making the levels, if feasible, if possible, by hand to showcase the greatest side of your game. Next one is, if possible, build for desktop. I know a lot of people like to create mobile games in game jams, and that's perfectly fine, and that's great. And like after the game jam, if you continue to work, it's perfectly normal and perfectly good to put the game on mobile device. But while prototyping, usually trying to target and test on mobile device brings a lot of problems, because every time that you want to test out some kind of feature that you have to build to the device, it takes a lot of time. And usually, especially like in the case, I remember, I think it was 2016, I was making an endless runner where the only mechanic, like the player's input, was tapping the screen to jump. And for some reason, I decided that I have to test like constantly on the device to see how it feels. And I could just did the same in Unity editor, just clicking a space bar. It didn't change anything. It did cost me a lot of time. I did finish the game in the end, but yeah, it would have been less stressful and quicker experience if I just stick with desktop. Of course, if you're making a VR game, it's not an option for you. So yeah, don't feel that you have to make everything for desktop, but if you can, it's probably a better decision for game jam. And the last one, if possible, especially if you're working in a team and there's at least one familiar person, use source control. There are a lot of great different ones. For example, Git, or Unity has its own Collaborate or Plastic built in. Yes, source control gives you great features, like, for example, reverting changes that you didn't like, collaborating. And it's a lot easier and a lot faster than putting a project in a flash drive and giving it to your teammate and wait till the teammate like merges all of the changes that everybody's done. Been there, done that. Source control is definitely a way to do it. But also be aware that it can get tricky sometimes. So if there's someone on the team with experience with it, then it's a great choice. If it would be a learning experience for you, if you want to learn source control, great, super. Use this opportunity to learn it. But if nobody knows it and everybody just wants to make a quick, awesome game, then you should probably not use it and not risk it. So yeah, and if you need any more tips or you need some troubleshooting, there will be my colleagues here in Vilnius location willing to help you work on your projects, provide you with some more tips or like solutions if you run into any problems. You can also reach them on Discord server. So if you have any questions, if you have any problems, the quickest way to solve them is to actually ask others with the knowledge. So yeah, I highly suggest reaching out to my colleagues. They will be super happy to help you. And yeah, that would be my final tip. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can just email me or message me on Twitter, or I'm also on Discord, so you can just message me there. And yeah, happy jamming. Hope this helps you in any way. And yeah, can't wait to see your great games. Thank you very much.